Good evening. I'd like to call this special Tuesday version of the Board of Commissioners meeting to order. First, I'm going to ask Commissioner Allman to lead us in an invocation in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Father God, thank you for this time that you've given us. God, thank you for the freedoms that we have in this country. Thank you for our leaders. I lift up my fellow commissioners tonight. Ask that you give us wisdom, discernment, and ask us to keep our citizens in mind and to do your will. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Allman. Are there any adjustments to the agenda this evening? If not, we'll seek a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion from Commissioner Allman to approve the agenda. Is there a second? Second from Commissioner Barbie. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0. Item number 1 on the agenda tonight is the home health public hearing. Presenter is Mr. Dave Jenkins.
Good evening, Chairman Swain and Commissioners. On November 7th, 2019, the Stanley County Health and Human Services Board unanimously supported a resolution of intent to sell our home health agency. On August 10th, 2020, this board approved said resolution upon the county receiving an acceptable proposal for such sale, which complies with the requirements of North Carolina law and is satisfactory to the Board of Commissioners. So this evening, pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 131E 13D3, the Stanley County Board of Commissioners must conduct a public hearing regarding the board's resolution of intent to sell, otherwise convey its home health agency in a manner that ensures the continued provision of quality health care to the community it serves.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. I will make one clarification to that. I was not here at that meeting, but it did not pass unanimously, correct?
Just a health and human services. That is correct.
The resolution by the commissioners was 6-1.
Okay, so it passed 6-1, but it was not unanimous.
The home health one was.
Okay.
Health and Human Services Board resolution.
Okay. I'm sorry, I misunderstood that, Mr. Jenkins. I thought you were talking about the prior commissioner meeting.
No, sir.
That's my fault. I will go ahead and declare the public hearing open. Is there anybody here to speak for the resolution or the item? Anybody here to speak against the item? Or against? Final call? Declare the public hearing closed. I don't think there's any other action we have to take on that agenda item tonight.
Not this evening.
All right.
We'll be coming to you in likely one of the October meetings with the proposals from the various entities that respond.
Okay. Item number 2 on tonight's agenda will be the contract and budget amendment for West Stanley Wastewater Treatment Plant, 2.5 million gallon per day expansion. Mr. Wingo.
Thank you, gentlemen. Stanley County Utilities Department reviewed 4 submitted proposals or statement of qualifications from engineering firms experienced in the design of wastewater treatment plants, and we've elected to choose Wooten Company based in Raleigh, North Carolina, to complete a preliminary engineering report and a environmental assessment. And this would be for the proposed 2.5 million gallon per day expansion of the West Stanley Wastewater Treatment Plant. The PER will also include financial assistance regarding the submittal of all requested documents to the USDA that we will be submitting to request debt funding for the project. The purpose of the PER is to evaluate and recommend necessary design improvements to expand the West Stanley wastewater treatment plant capacity from 1.2 MGD to 2.5 MGD, and to provide an accurate cost estimate to complete the project. It will also discuss and evaluate alternatives to the recommended design that will be in the PER. It will also include an evaluation of the 20-year growth projections in the West Stanley Sewer District to justify the need for the project, as well as propose the most effective means to pay the annual debt service after the project is completed. The PER scope of service acknowledges the need for communication and negotiation with the municipal users of the wastewater treatment plant, being the City of Locust, Town of Oakboro, and the Town of Stanfield, in order to determine an equitable solution to allocate the future sewer capacity as it comes available for the current 1.2 MGD expansion, which we're getting ready to start, as well as the 2.5 MGD expansion if we proceed forward. The Wooten Company will provide assistance in those discussions with the municipalities. The expected completion date of the PER will be January 2021, and the EA will be completed by March of 2021. And the project will require a capital funding account be established through a budget amendment to pay for both the PER and the EA. Staff recommends approval of the PER contract with the Wooten Company and authorize the county attorney to review and revise the contract as necessary for conformity to Stanley County standard contracts. Staff recommends approval of a capital project budget amendment to provide funds to pay for both the PER and the EA in the amount of $57,500.
Any questions for Mr. Wingo?
Chairman, I think I have three, Mr. Wingate.
Yes, sir.
You said there were 4 estimates or bids submitted. Were any of those from Stanley County companies?
No, sir. The 4 companies were McGill, LaBella, and KCI, which were based out of South Carolina. It's not a bid, it's a statement of qualifications. Per the Minnie Brooks Act, we're not really allowed to price out engineering services. We just have to get their qualifications and then make a decision based on who can provide the most, effective service that we need to get this project done.
The second question, I've got more information than you just gave. On page 9, it talks about the fee summary. And I understand what lump sum means. That means one-time lump sum. But there's a task for community assistance, and it shows hourly, $7,500.
Yes, sir.
I hope that means up to $7,500, but
That's
on an
their
hourly
estimate.
basis.
The PER will be a not to exceed lump sum amount of $57,500. They're just throwing in numbers to to arrive at the $57,500, what they see spending that portion of that work. But the project or the contract will not exceed that unless there's a change order.
So it's not $7,500 or $2,500
It'll be up to
per hour.
$7,500 is what they're estimating.
Okay.
It could be less, probably will be.
And then the last comment to make about it, I think it's in the agreement, it's got a timeline, proposed timeline.
Yes, sir.
Let's see if I can find it. I think it's just a typo error because it says the spring of 2020, not 2021.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry for that.
So
It will, EAs take a very long time to complete, so it will be March of 2021 when the environmental assessment will wrap up the PER. Before then, environmental assessment will lag behind it a few months.
It says, this bullet point says, follow up on USDA comments when received, estimated early spring of 2020, so that needs to be changed to
Yes, sir.
2021. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Lawhon. Are there any other questions? No other questions for Mr. Wingo. What's the pleasure of the board? Commissioner Lawhon.
I would make a recommendation or make a motion that we approve the preliminary engineering report with Wooten Company and authorize the county attorney to review and revise the contract as necessary for conformity to Stanley County standard contracts. Staff recommends approval of a capital project budget amendment to provide funds to pay for the PER and the EA in the amount of $57,500.
Motion from Commissioner Lawhon to accept the PER contract with Wooten Company and allow the county attorney to revise the contract as necessary to conform with Stanley County standards, and approve the capital budget amendment to provide the funds necessary in the amount of $57,500. Does everybody understand the motion? Is there a second? Second from Commissioner Allman. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion would carry 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wingo. Item number 3 on tonight's agenda will be the 2021 revaluation schedule of values. I have the presenter as Mr. Charles Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I promise I'm going to let Charlie do a lot more of the talking than I do tonight. But we are here to present the 2 revaluation schedules for 2021. The schedule of values for market value and the schedule of values for the present use value that we use. Also in your packet, not only were both of the schedules, but also the timeline for adoption and an appeal process for the schedules. So I will talk about that here in just a minute, but I'm going to let Charlie talk to you about revaluation and about the process in general, and then I'll talk to you about the adoption timeline.
Good evening. My name's Charles Johnson. I was going to tell you a little bit about the reappraisal. Stanley County, we do one every 4 years. It's legislated that you have to do one every 8, and we found that we have much less issue with sticker shock, and it cuts down on the inequities on assessing of values if we do it every 4. And we've done a 4-year reappraisal for many years now. Currently, we began the 2021 revaluation in August of 2017. It's taken us that long to visit every parcel in the county. There's 40,000 of them. There's 4 appraisers counting myself, and we have driven by and inspected every property that we can reach and have taken a photograph of the main improvements of every property, houses, buildings, commercial buildings. So we have a photographic historical record of every property we've seen. And we completed the field reviews of all 40,000 parcels in November of 19. We started working on permits after that, finished those up around March of 2020, and we began final office reviews in April of 2020. So where we're in the office, we're looking at our photographs. Since we have to project what the market will be as of January, this is the time when we sit here and try to firm up the values that we will be sending out hopefully around March of 2021, end of February, 1st of March. To date, we have reviewed approximately 22,000 of the 40,000 parcels and assigned it a final value. We hope to finish the office reviews in January of 2021. Like I said, I'd like to reiterate, get the notices in the mail by March of 2021, and we expect about a 5% appeal rate or 2,000 appeals, informal appeals, which we will hear. And that's kind of where we're at, really. We will take the time from January to March to try to test, make sure there's no problems, firm up what the market's doing, and try to come out with something, because state law says we need to be as close to 100% of current market value as possible. That is the mandate. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Are there any questions for Mr. Johnson? No questions. This is no action item, correct?
Right. Yeah, there's no action required from the board tonight. I do want to briefly go over the adoption timeline. North Carolina Machinery Act is very specific about the adoption of the schedule of values. There's a lot of things in here that they leave us a lot of gray area. I think the county attorney would agree to that. But it's very specific about that. And in your packet is the adoption timeline. So tonight is step one, simply presenting the schedule. And then beginning Saturday, there'll be a notice in the paper about that. And then October 5th, we'll be back for a public hearing. And then on the 19th of October, we'll ask for you, the commissioners, to approve the schedules. And then for the next 4 weeks, we have to publish once a week in the paper that the Board of Commissioners has adopted the schedule of values. All this has to be complete before January 1st of 2021. So yeah, there's nothing for you to do tonight. The copies of the schedule of values will be placed at the tax administration office. They will be in central administration. They will be at each of the public library branches, and it's also online at the tax administration webpage. If anybody wants a copy of the PDF there, they can get it. So, any questions?
No questions?
All right, thank you, board.
Thank you. Item number 4 tonight will be the zoning request for Baxter Burleson, 41462 Highway 740. Presenter is going to be Ms. Bailey Emmerich.
Members of the board, thank you for having me. The first thing I'm going to go over with you is Baxter Burleson's request to rezone a parcel. It's located at 41462 Highway 740 in New London. Currently it's zoned RA, which is residential agricultural. He's looking to rezone it to general business. The current property has a structure on it. It was built prior to zoning. Initially, it was a small convenience store and served several other commercial uses. When the county zoning was initiated in the mid-70s, the property was zoned HB, or highway business. In 1993, the property was rezoned RA, again at the request of the trustees of Clearwater Baptist Church, to convert it to a church facility. After the church closed, the structure was used as a personal hobby woodworking shop and as a residence, but was never rezoned. Because it did not meet minimum housing code, the use as the residence was ended. Mr. Burleson acquired the property in June of 2020 and has proposed to rezone this parcel as commercial storage. The nearby parcels are mostly zoned RA with the exception of one vacant nearby property on 740, and that one's zoned HB, or highway business. Per the Stanley County zoning ordinance, the RA zoning district does not allow for an accessory structure to be alone on one parcel, which is what Mr. Burleson's storage would be considered. Therefore, in order to make it compliant to the ordinance, the parcel would need to be rezoned to general business, which allows for a storage garage per section 610.1 of the zoning ordinance. NCDOT traffic data identifies approximately 2,100 vehicles passing on Highway 740 each day in 2018. Mr. Burleson will be required to provide a screening buffer between a GB zoning and an RA zoning. Any outside storage must be fenced in the GB zoning district. And here's a picture of the property currently. If you're looking at the parcel, correct me if I'm wrong, but the part to the right is the side that burned and is currently being torn down, correct? Right. And this is also a zoned view, so you can see the RA that surrounds it, and that small triangular portion to the left of it is the HB, but doesn't currently have anything on it. And I will be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
This building's like, it's the one that's already sort of halfway torn down there.
That's right.
Okay, gotcha. Just making sure.
Any other questions?
And it's going to be used for commercial storage and a small business at the same time.
It's going to be, I'm planning on making a landscape supply place, outside home and gardens, stuff like that.
Okay.
I bought it to park my dump trucks and heavy equipment, but I seen all the traffic that's on that road and thought,
Thank you.
community needs something like that.
Any other questions from the board? If not, I'll open the public hearing. Declare the public hearing open. Is there anybody here to speak for the rezoning? For the rezoning? Anybody here to speak against the rezoning? Last call for or against. Declare the public hearing closed. Any other questions from the board or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the rezone.
Motion from Commissioner Allman. Is this one of those we have to have specific language? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the request to rezone the parcel owned by Baxter Burleson and located at 41462 Highway 740, New London, from RA Residential Agricultural to GB General Business be approved. This parcel has been used as a business location in the past, and with it required buffers will be compatible with surrounding uses.
Commissioner Allman has made a motion. Is there a second? All right, second from Commissioner Barbie. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Item number 5 on the agenda this evening is another rezoning. Again, Ms. Bailey Emmerich.
The second item is ZA 20-06. This is a Cellco Partnership that's requested a telecommunications tower overlay district to be assigned to a portion of a parcel that's located on the northeast side of Little Street in Aquadale. That is approximately 100 by 100 in size for the purpose of locating a 190-foot tall telecommunications tower. The primary use on the property has historically been a baseball, softball, or sports field. The proposed monopole tower is located east of the ball field in a wooded area, and I'll be able to show you that right here. In that red square is where it would be at. Cellco has submitted all required paperwork indicated the location falls on setbacks and proposed buffer. All tower overlay district requirements have been met or exceeded for the proposed cell tower location, with the exception of the required vegetative buffer. While a partial vegetative buffer is to be installed, the full requirement may be waived upon the recommendation of the Planning Board and the approval of the County Commissioners. Since the proposed tower is located in a wooded area, the planned buffer should be sufficient to hide the base of the tower and the related equipment. Access to the site will be by easement from Little Street. While there's another telecommunications tower located north of Aquadale, its location has been deemed insufficient to provide adequate service to the area as proposed by Verizon, the initial carrier of the new tower. A map of the service coverage is included along with the plat showing the project area and an aerial map showing the uses in the vicinity. Here's just a zoned map. You can see where it's all pretty much RA, but there are some different uses. R20 and M2 are there. This is what it would look like if you're standing at Aquadale Elementary, basically in that parking lot and looking straight across. This is what it would look like. This was done with a balloon test that they do to see what it would look like exactly. The tower will not generate significant additional traffic on Little Street or NC 138, but will provide cell telecommunication services in a traditionally dead zone. This parcel is bordered on the north by the Aberdeen, Carolina, and Western Railroad right-of-way and NC 138. This is near the new Dollar General location in Aquadale and is approximately 800 feet from Aquadale Elementary School and Stanley Fixtures manufacturing plant. Staff recommends approval of the request. And here's just another picture of what it would look like. And when you drive by, you can look to your left and see out to the field, and you can see where it would be. And here's the plat also of the proposed area. And I believe next is the coverage. So right now, when you're riding through, this is the coverage that you get, and you can kind of see that area right there is a dead zone. But if that were to be put in, the new tower, it would be very significant in that area. So yes, if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Questions from board members?
Yes, is anybody from Cellco present?
Yes, yes, they are.
Could I ask a question? How long have you been looking at this property to,
They typically do search rings. I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
My name is Michael Berkowitz, and in a matter of the person that usually handles these is actually cannot travel. He's from upstate New York. I know that they've been looking at these areas to be able to fill in coverage. They typically have a search ring. I do have a history in wireless data, which is why I thought I might be able to answer some questions. They're putting together a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. And to be able to plop this right in the center of it so you can see that that is probably right in their middle of their search ring of how they can be able to provide coverage. How long I don't have an answer for you. I'd be happy to go ahead and get an answer for you if you'd like, but I'm not sure. But obviously by the propagation maps provided, this is a dead area with very little coverage.
it definitely is a dead area.
And also being near a school is really important. I've done studies in the town of Matthews, also up in the city of Statesville, where having those on the school really helps out as far as from a safety concern.
Yeah, that used to be school property.
Yes.
I was on the school board when it got bought, and I was wondering, that would be good income for the school if it was still school property.
I have proposed that to every school system around to be able to go ahead and put cell towers on school sites, especially with new schools construction. I would highly recommend it. It is a good source of income.
I can't stress enough how important that would have been if the school was still on that property. It would be a big help to them. But my next thing is to start with, I work for AT&T, and I don't think towers are ugly, but a lot of people think that they are. And is the option of making this thing look like a tree? Is that going to be too costly?
I've got, actually, I think that from a tree standpoint, I'm the appraiser who provide the impact study report. What I have found is that actually they create a larger visual footprint by making it a tree. And so therefore it's really not conducive. So you're actually drawing more attention to it by putting out those trees. Now they do work very well in the mountains where there's topography, so it kind of blends into the background, and it works really well. But as far as in a level area like Stanley County or Rolling Hills, it's better just to put up the tower.
Looks like a pine tree on steroids, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, your eyes just drawn to it. I call them toilet brushes because they look like them.
Well, that was just because I know that's probably going to pop up, so I really wanted to.
Yes, also I was asked at the previous hearing about the access and why it was done from Little Road. Crossing a railroad track is a very ugly way to be able to go. So that's why it's accessed off of Little Road. I performed the impact study, and there is no impact to property values. In fact, there was a sale of an adjacent property of the tower north of there on NC 138, and that compared to the properties, which is included in my report, was actually on the upper end of the range. Based on that and other examples of paired sales analysis provided in that report, it's my professional opinion that this tower, as proposed, will not impact adjusting or the value of adjacent or abutting properties or properties in the area.
It's not going to make any difference one way or the other tonight, but I would love to know how long that site's been in scope.
I'll be happy to inquire as to that, sir.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions from board members? I have one quick one. I know it says it's a Verizon tower, but does Verizon lease out to other services?
What Verizon does is they are the impetus for the construction of the tower, and they'll take the top slot and then there's other slots that are on there. It's run by a separate company, Cellco, and what they'll do is they'll try and lease that out just like a multi-tenant building.
The only reason I ask is that's also one of our worst area for broadband coverage in the county. So I know there's some companies working on wireless broadband access and things like that, and towers like that are a good opportunity.
They are not putting up cheap equipment.
Right.
They're not going that way anymore. They're providing that and going to 4G and 5G.
Right.
What I have seen is that they have not been using the old equipment anymore. They're moving on.
Right.
And also, while with the streaming and everything else, it's basically like a pipe, and you're trying to put more water through it, so they're using an expanded pipe. And that's why they're offloading some of the service from some of those other towers. It'll offload a lot easier and actually will increase your capacity.
So there is opportunity for other folks to
Absolutely.
to expand. So that's the only question I had. Any other questions? If not, I'll go ahead and declare a public hearing open. Is there anybody here to speak for the project? Go ahead. Number 4.
Well, the ordinance says that the tower overlay rezoning request is basically on 3 items to evaluate the tower for aesthetic reasons. This is not a scenic area. It is actually embedded into the woods. So that would reduce to the extent possible the visual impact. It is along the 138 corridor, and as you can see, the towers that are surrounding them are almost equidistant from this, and this does fill a hole. And based upon the study that I provided, there would be no impact to surrounding or property values. Based upon, I believe it's section 614.4, I think that this is about as at least intrusive as you possibly could be for I believe it's a 195-foot tower. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you might have, but I would ask that you approve the request. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here to speak for the project? Is there anybody here to speak against the project? For or against? Last call. Declare the public hearing closed. Any questions from the board? I have one for the county attorney, and it was just because I was reading again. My notes say hold a legislative hearing. Is that different than just a standard public hearing that I just held? Okay.
The legislative decision when it's a public hearing.
Okay, well, I wanted to make sure we had.
Yeah, you're making a legislative decision tonight.
Okay.
It's not a.
I've just never seen that note, I'm sorry.
It's not a quasi-judicial
Okay.
decision.
Right. So,
All right.
yeah, they're changing the language in the statutes for us.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we were good. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Furr?
I move that we approve that the telecommunications tower overlay district be added to the portion parcel owned by Paul P. Poplin, identified as tax record number 4426. This project is compatible with the surrounding area and uses will promote economic development in the Aquadale area.
Thank you. Commissioner Furr's made a motion. Is there a second? A second from Commissioner Allman, I believe. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Sir, could I get a card from you before you leave?
If not, I'll have one. Can I contact you through?
That's fine. Contact me on email.
It's on the website.
It's on our website. I don't want to make it.
It's on the web. You say your county commissioners is, okay.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that I get you my contact information. I think I have.
Item number 6 tonight is Board of Adjustment appointments. Again, Ms. Bailey.
Okay, the last thing I'm gonna bring up to y'all tonight is the Board of Adjustment appointments. There has been one meeting that has been held on this, but appoint one alternate member for the Stanley County Board of Adjustment is what needs to be done tonight. The Board of Commissioners tabled action at the June meeting due to lack of applicants. Currently, there are 3 applicants for this position. Appoint one of the 3 applicants or another to serve on the Board of Adjustment as an alternate in the term expiring June 2023. This action would fill the vacancy formed for the expired term of Jim Starnes. The 3 current applications are from Tim Fesperman of Locust, Michael Fleming of Norwood, and Michael Williams of Big Lick. Mr. Williams currently serves on several boards, including the Planning Board. Mr. Fleming and Mr. Fesperman do not currently serve on any county boards. Mr. Fesperman serves as chair of the City of Locust Planning Board. The current members of the Board of Adjustment are Michael Eford, Billy Franklin Lee, Devron Furr, Richard Cosgrove, Brenda Farmer, Cynthia Fish, David Doolan, and the one that was appointed last time was Shannon Maynard. And he is the one alternate, and this is the second one that will be filled.
What would the board like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion, we appoint Max Tim Fesperman.
Motion from, I guess we have to do it as nominations. Nomination for Max Tim Fesperman.
I'll nominate him.
Are there any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Michael Williams.
A nomination for Mr. Michael Williams. Is there any other nomination? All right, I'll close the nominations. We'll vote first for Mr. Max T. Fesperman. All those in favor of Mr. Fesperman, please raise your hand. If you're on the phone, say aye. Aye. That's 6 votes for Mr. Fesperman, I believe. Those in favor of Mr. Williams, please say aye. Record 1 vote for Mr. Williams. And that should be your member is Mr. Fesperman. All right. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you. Item number 7 is the consent agenda. Are there any questions about the consent agenda this evening? If not, we'll seek a motion to approve as presented. A motion from Commissioner Allman to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? Second from Commissioner Barbie. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0. That brings us to public comment. Is there anybody that did not sign up that wishes to speak this evening? If not, we'll move to board comment. I'm going to start with Commissioner Lawhon this evening.
No comment.
No comment from Commissioner Lawhon. Commissioner Barbie?
I think I'll pass too.
All right. Commissioner Furr? Commissioner Allman?
Early voting starts October 15th, and all the sites are listed on the County Board of Elections site.
Can you do mail-in?
Tommy? Sorry, Commissioner Jordan?
Can't be there tonight. I'll be there second person next week or next month. Oh, next meeting. And I want to thank the people that did sign up to be on some of these boards. I know we postponed that board last time because we had nobody to sign up for it. So it's nice to see that our efforts to get people to sign up for these boards are panning out. That's what's in it.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan. Commissioner Morgan?
No comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Morgan. I also have no comment this evening. If there's no other business, we'll seek a motion to adjourn. Motion from Commissioner Furr to adjourn. Is there a second? Second from Commissioner Barbie. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0, and we'll stand adjourned until Monday, October 5th at 6 p.m.